Hey guys, welcome back to Release the Craftin. Priscilla here with another episode of Storycraft, where I'm going to tell you guys a story and do a craft. And this one's going to be a doozy, not the story. The story is not a doozy. The craft is going to be a doozy. If you watch very carefully, you will see how I mess it up several times. But that's okay, because I made it work in the end, so, you know, you'll live and you'll learn. And now we're learning together, because you're gonna see, and you're gonna be like, oh my god, Priscilla, what the heck? But we pull it together in the end, and it comes out good. So, you're gonna have to bear with me because I'm dying the slow death of allergies, and I'm gonna try to do this quickly so that I don't turn into a frog. But, you know, the clock might strike 12 and I will turn into a frog and we'll just continue to power through. But I thought today I would share with you guys, since I've been on a Greek mythology kick anyways, I would share with you guys my least favorite myth in all of Greek mythology, which is impressive because there's a lot of it, but also because I hate it so much. And it's so milquetoast compared to some other, like, myths that I could be telling you that are probably not super cool either. Like, you know, there's a bunch of stories that end in a way that I go, I don't like that. But for some reason, this one, in all of its bland glory, irritates me the most. It's the most egregious of Greek myths to me, and I thought it would be fun to share because even the things we dislike have their own inherent value, and in this one I think there's a little bit of conversation to be had, a little bit of, like, modern viewpoint retelling ideas, sorts of things, perspectives. You know, words are really hard. That can be gleaned from this, so I thought it would just be fun to share this story of my least favorite myth of all freaking time, and you already know the name because it's going to be on the thumbnail and title of this video, but here we go. Okay, so this version takes place in the way long ago, and it's brought to us by Ovid, and it stars the hero of our story, Pygmalion. And Pygmalion, you guys, was a super popular, super famous ancient Greek sculptor who was known specifically for his uncanny ability to shape ivory in super lifelike and realistic ways. So he's really popular. He's like the hot new thing on the whole sculptor front. Everybody loves Pygmalion's work. He's a great artist, admittedly. Fantastic artist. Makes some of the most beautiful sculptures around. People are like, wow, everything looks so realistic. He's like the best, right? He's the top of the game. And one day, Pygmalion gets invited with some of his other, like, art bros in the little art community to go down towards the docks to do a little bit of real life study, quote unquote, let's say. And when he gets down there, he gets exposed to a bunch of women who live a little bit differently than the women he's used to, because he's used to women who are very reserved and, you know, prim and proper and all the things. But down by the docks, those women have a trade, and the trade is sex. They're sex workers. And he's never seen anything like it. And it turns out what essentially happened is that his art bros were like, hey, our boy Pig is a huge virgin. A huge virgin, and that just offends our sensibilities, so we're gonna bring him out here and see if we can't get him laid. So they bring him out there. They bring Pygmalion all the way down to the docks. He sees these women, and not only are they talking and having a great time, not only are they, you know, chatting it up, having drinks, they're lewdly dressed, right? Because they're, you know, you can see their shoulders, which is a scandal, right? And you can see ankles, also a scandal. And he's like there with his little notepad and his little pen, and he's like, oh, I was ready to do some, like, figure drawing, and what I'm seeing are a bunch of vivacious, amazing, liberated women, and they keep talking to me, and I hate that. Because it turns out, you guys, Pygmalion was fine being a huge virgin. He had no problems with that. Because, interestingly enough, for someone who is a fantastic artist, who sculpts life, like, models and characters of all sorts of human beings, mostly women, Pygmalion can't stand women. He can't stand when they speak. He can't stand when they seem to be liberated. He can't stand when they're just, like, out there with their bodies in front of them. Like, Pygmalion can't take it. So he's like, oh, I gotta leave. And his friends are like, what, bro? Like, what? No, we brought you out here so you can get laid. And he's like, oh, no. Disgusting. I actually don't want to get laid whatsoever. I don't like these women. And then his bros are like, are you serious? Are you kidding me? Like, look at how beautiful they are. And Pygmalion is like, no, all I see is horrendous horrors among me. Terrible, awful. I gotta go. So Pygmalion leaves. He goes home. And when he goes home, on his way, he stops by the Temple of Aphrodite, because if you guys don't know this about our boy Pygmalion, as an artist, he appreciates all things beautiful. So you have to, by default, appreciate the goddess of beauty, Aphrodite. So he's a dedicate of Aphrodite, and somehow, in some way, is repulsed by women. Which isn't a bad thing, inherently. But you'll see, it's not for any other reason that he doesn't like when they have agency. So, he stops by the Temple of Aphrodite, and in his prayers, he considers all the things that he had seen this day and wants to banish, like, these lewd women out of his mind. And he basically tells Aphrodite that he loves women, and he loves, how pretty they are, but they repulse him. So he's going to be single forever. He's never going to lose his virginity. He's going to stay that way for the rest of all time. Which, like, I can hear all the ladies in the back of the room being like, thank God, please do that. And I agree. If only that were the case. But he did this in Aphrodite's temple. And you guys, if you don't know this about Aphrodite, she takes a lot of things personally. Even things that shouldn't really be taken personally. But nothing is more offensive to her than showing up to her temple and being like, you know what? I love you. I think you're amazing, Aphrodite. And she's like, yes, go on. More compliments. But I would like to never feel love ever in my life in any way, shape, or form, whether it be romantic or sexual, because women repulse me. So Aphrodite was like, say what? You can't do that in my temple. In my temple of all places, right? So Aphrodite, she lets Pygmalion leave, and she's like, he can't be a virgin forever. That's the opposite of what I stand for. And also, what? In my temple? You're gonna tell me this? No. So, that very evening, Aphrodite starts to send Pygmalion dreams. And not just any dreams. No. She sends him dreams of the most beautiful woman he can imagine. The epitome of beauty, whatever that characterizes, whatever you think that standard is in your brain, that's what Pygmalion is dreaming of, okay? And Aphrodite continues to send him this dream night after night, so that every day Pygmalion wakes up with a longing for a woman that only exists in his dreams. And he's like, I don't even understand this, because I find women repulsive, but for some reason, this perfect, silent woman in my dreams, that's important, is haunting me. And this goes on for a few days. Like, he can't eat, he can't really sleep that much, because when he sleeps, he dreams of this beautiful woman. And he can't really do anything else, because he's so wrapped up in all the thoughts of this woman who only exists in his dreams. So, he then decides that he's going to do what he does best. He's going to sculpt. He's an artist, right? So, he goes down to his workshop, gets the largest slab of marble he can find. Not marble, ivory. I don't know if it comes in a slab. I don't think it comes in a slab. It comes from elephants. It can't be ivory. It's marble, but it's the color of ivory. That's what it is. So it's white. That was the distinctive feature there. It's white. That's important. Not really, but it's important for other things. So he begins to sculpt. And day after day, he starts to sculpt. And the more he sculpts, the more the woman in his dreams is interested in him. So, silently, the silent woman starts to, smile at him, treat him kindly, stroke his face. And he's getting, like, real hot and bothered. Because, you guys, he's a virgin. He's never been touched by a woman. So, being touched by his dream woman, is blowing his mind. So he continues to pour all of his energy, all of his passion into this sculpture until it is complete. And it is the most beautiful sculpture, in his opinion, that he has ever made, ever. It is the perfect woman in all of her nakedness. It is the woman from his dreams. And he is enraptured with this. Finally, she exists in the physical reality right in front of him. And he is like, amazing. Whoa. Wow. Crazy. And then that night he goes to sleep. And she's not in his dreams. And he's like, oh, wait a minute. I got really used to having her there in my dreams. And he wakes up the next morning, statue's still there, but he doesn't have that longing anymore because it's right in front of him. And he starts to stare at the statue. And the more he stares at the statue, the more he can't help but remark about how talented he must be, because the statue is so incredibly lifelike. It looks like you could reach out and touch flesh, because that's just how perfect this sculpture is. There are no, like, mars, there's no errors, there's no chips, there's no cracks. It is perfectly smooth, like it could possibly be satiny soft skin, like a woman. And when he reaches out and touches the statue, he's expecting to touch skin, but there's no skin to be touched. It's still a statue, it's still stone. And then that night, he has another dream. The woman is back in his dream, but this time she looks sad, and she looks a little disappointed, a little disapproving of him. And he wakes up absolutely struck, like absolutely disheartened, like his heart is breaking into two because the woman of his dreams is disappointed in him. And he goes, you know what it is? She's not wearing any clothes. So he gets a sheet. He throws it onto the statue. He takes a step back. When he looks, oh no, the sheet is too ugly for her body. So instead he goes out and he spends a bunch of money to get nice clothes, nice jewelry, all the things that, like, you know, he thinks women really enjoy. He gets all those things. He comes back, he dresses up the statue in that. And he's like, well, she is kind of pretty, and these are things that are nice, but they're not good enough for her. So then he strips her naked again, takes all her clothes off, all the jewelry, because it's too gaudy. It's just ruining his vision of the perfect woman. So it's better if she's silent and naked. Just gonna let that sink in. So a couple days go by, more like this, where he keeps dreaming of this woman, and she seems to be a little bit, you know, pulling away from him. And he's like, I can't figure out how to please her, but I have to figure it out somehow. So then he takes her down from her pedestal, takes her into his house, props her up in his living room, his little living space, and starts to tell her poetry, poem after poem after poem. And when he feels like she's getting bored of that, he switches to stories. And he starts telling her all sorts of stories, fantastical, mystical, romantic, everything he can think of. And that evening, when he dreams of the woman again, she's very content. She looks actually happy to see him again, and he is relieved. She needed to be entertained. Of course she did, because she's so beautiful and perfect and wonderful and bored. So he spent a couple more days like that, just sort of recounting his days, telling his life story to this statue. Like, it's getting a little concerning. People have not seen him for days. He has not emerged from his house. And then he starts to think, you know what? This woman is the perfect woman for me. She has milky white skin. In fact, it's so milky white that we're going to name her Galatea, which means milky white. And she has a name. This statue has a name now. And more time goes on, and he's like, you know what else? In addition to being the perfect woman for me, she's perfect in all the ways except for one: she's not alive. So then he immediately runs out of his house, unshaven, all the things. He probably stank like butt because he didn't leave his house or do anything but obsess over the statue for days, and runs down to the temple of Aphrodite, gets on his knees, and starts begging and pleading that Aphrodite will grant him this one wish of his, which is to bring his statue to life. And Aphrodite is like, oh, now did you want to get laid? Now are you tired of being a virgin for the rest of your life? Now that, you know, this woman before you has appeared, now all of a sudden you're interested? Okay, alright, bet. So Aphrodite, absolutely pleased, chuffed with herself for her brilliant idea of giving him the dreams in the first place, does a little bit of godly magic. So by the time that Pygmalion gets home, He goes to look at the statue, of course, obsess over it, hopefully take a freaking shower before he touches her again. And when he sees her again, something is a little different. She's still perfect, statuesque beauty, looks like she's carved out of stone, but she actually does seem like maybe he could reach out and touch her. And when he does reach out to touch her this time, her skin gives a little. It's softening up a bit. And some more time passes, and it's getting softer and softer, and it looks like almost as if she might be breathing. So Pygmalion is excited. He's stoked. He has every idea that this woman is coming to life right in front of him. Aphrodite has granted his wish. So to celebrate that, what he does is he goes up to this statue woman who's slowly coming to life, that he's been obsessed with forever, and he gives her a kiss right on the lips. And it turns out she returns his kiss. She is now fully alive. Galatea has come all the way to life. And that's it, you guys. She comes to life. He puts some clothes on her finally, and they get married. They live happily ever after. Actually, they get married at the temple of Aphrodite, and some stories say that Aphrodite herself married them. And they end up having a child together who becomes the ruler and namesake of another place. It doesn't matter, because that's the end of the story. Happily ever after, the end. Which, like, I think you can see why this is not my favorite story in Greek mythology, because it's literally male fantasy, which wouldn't nearly be like a bad thing if like Galatea had any character or agency, but like they never talk about her, you know, outside of her getting a name. She never speaks in the story. She doesn't do anything except for exist to be a vehicle for a man to get all of his wants and desires, when he's really kind of a shitty person who shouldn't get all of his wants and desires, because he hates women. And he only likes women who are quiet and meek and completely beholden to him, because I can't even imagine the scenario that had to go down for Galatea to come out with her brain intact of a statue to be like, oh yeah, I guess I'm just stuck with this guy and we're together, and now I'm an object for his affection, and now I'm birthing his children, and now I'm just here as like a, you know, a decoration in the background of this guy's story with no agency or thoughts of my own or feelings or, you know, desires or anything except to be married to this guy. Because she's literally just like a puppet, like a doll made to be his, and it's disgusting. I hate it. I hate the story so much. I know that there is a short story, like modern retelling version of this. I forgot who wrote it. Of Galatea, and I think it takes a more feminist perspective, but like, I don't know if it rewrites the wheel or anything like that. Rewrites the will. That doesn't make any sense. You know you know what I mean. Of this story, but it drives me crazy. It's also just a very sign, like a big sign of the like patriarchal issues of like Greek society at that time, and how they were like, this is a romance. Look at this story. It's so great, guys. But like, it's just a story of a guy who makes his perfect woman and gets everything he wants. After bad-mouthing a bunch of women. But it also puts me in mind of, like, there's another story in Celtic mythology about Flowerface. I can't say the Celtic name of her actual Celtic name. I would butcher it horribly, so I'm not going to do that now. But in that story, essentially, a woman is made to be a bride for a god, like a god king, that or child of gods who is king, because he was cursed to never have a mortal bride, never have like a bride of the earth, essentially of the race of people who existed. So they made her out of a bunch of flowers, and they put her together. She's beautiful, all the things, right? They get married, and it turns out she doesn't want to be married to him. She's like, I don't actually like this guy. She meets a different guy, and then they plot together to kill this guy, and as punishment, they succeed. They successfully kill him. One of the guys gets like banished to the underworld. Her lover does, and then she gets turned into an owl because nobody likes owls. So they'll all be afraid of her, and nobody will want to go near her ever again. And none of the birds will want to go near her except for other owls, because that's how owls work. But yeah, like I like that story a lot better because she has agency, even though at the end they're like, oh, you made her with Hawthorne, you should have known she was going to betray you. But like, who cares? she had her own personality and her own wants and desires, whereas Galatea has nothing. And I hate that so much. Also, this story makes me choose the bear. It's one of my 900,000 reasons on why I would choose the bear. Because, like, just, ew. I hate this story so much. But I thought it was worth telling you guys because, like, I can't even imagine, like, a lens in which to look at this story where I'm like, oh, this was actually a good story after all. And I want to be, like, forgiving a little bit and be like, okay, well, maybe, like, Pygmalion was just asexual or he was just gay. But he wasn't. Because he wanted something. He just didn't want personality or character or anything else to be attached to that. And so inadvertently turns himself into, like, one of the earliest tales of an incel who ends up getting everything that they want. And I hate it so much. But, like, I want to be more gracious. You know, I want to be like, okay, well, maybe he just wasn't ready, which is fine. But you don't have to shit talk a bunch of women to get there either. So, like, I don't know. That's all my thoughts and feelings on Pygmalion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And if there's a story, like, that you've heard, mythological, fairy tale, or otherwise, that you just absolutely can't stand, I would love to know what it is. Because I have a couple more that, like, I just don't like for different reasons. But this one is, like, top of the charts. I cannot stand this story so freaking much. Although it is fun to tell because I get to be a little bit more, like, out of pocket talking about it. But, you know, I don't think I'm going to do, like, a whole list of stories that I hate, but it would be interesting to see what stories you guys don't like and what reasons are behind it, and maybe I'll just, like, collect all the stories and I'll tell you guys the stories that we all hate in a post or, like, on the next story craft or something. Like, I don't know how many responses I'm going to get, so we'll see. But, like, yeah, that's everything. That's the entirety of Pygmalion and Galatea, and I don't even know how I would rewrite this. I would rewrite it where she just gets off the statue and walks away and she's like, ew, brother, ew, because she had to listen to him talk this entire time, and nothing is worse. This is like the modern day equivalent of, like, a man and a microphone on one of those, like, alpha male chat things. Like, that was just her listening to him talk about how he was the prime specimen and, like, nothing else. Except for how amazing he is for the weeks it took for her to get her full, like, not resurrection, but birth. Yeah, so that's it. If you made it to the end of the video, I appreciate your faces. I'm going to go have some hot tea, and hopefully my voice will recover a little bit. But I'll catch you guys all in the next one. Until then, happy crafting. Bye!